In today's episode, we're going to deepen our knowledge on the subject of one-stroke decorations. We'll show you a great method for perfect prep work, and we'll tell you how to use acrylic paints properly so that work goes smoothly. And of course, 3 levels of difficulty for decorations, so something useful for everyone.
Hi, I'm Connie, and this is a channel dedicated to the art of nail styling. Today's episode will be an exploration of decorations we call one-stroke.
We'll cover the nails with Freshmaker gel polish. To create our decorations, we'll need acrylic paints in the following colors: white, yellow, yellow-green, magenta, and green. We'll finish the decorations with tip top. We'll use a 180 to 220 buffer to mat the tips. We'll also use the one-stroke brush and Master Nail Art 003.
By way of introduction, one-stroke is one of the fastest methods of decorations created with acrylic paints. That is, if you are familiar with the technique. It's characterized by a combination of 2 colors between which there is an ideal gradient. With one brush movement, we are able to create beautiful flowers and floral elements. Looking at decorations made with this technique, we often think that it's a bit too complicated. Well, let us show you that it's not.
We start with prepping our working space. We'll need a piece of baking paper, a plastic holder, and a paper towel. Dampen the towel with a little water. Lay it flat on the stand, and on it place a piece of baking paper cut into a rectangle.
What's this wet paper fuss all about? It's to prevent the premature drying out of products. A wet paper towel will help keep the base moist and give the paints more moisture, which will make it easier for us to work with. Matting is a bit like an imitation of the preparation of a natural nail. We do it to increase the adhesion of products to the surface.
Mat the tips with a 180 to 220 buffer file. We gently polish the slippery surface of the tips. The 3 tips prepared in this way are covered with 2 layers of Freshmaker. Each of them is cured in the lamp for 30 seconds. We secure the surface of the gel polish with tip top and cure in the lamp for 30 seconds. After the top is cured, mat the entire surface with the buffer once again. A well-matted gel polish should not shine anywhere. We wipe it with a cotton pad soaked in wipe-off cleaner. On the prepared stand, more specifically on the baking paper, we put drops of the products we'll be using for today's decorations. Our guests will be acrylic paints in the following shades: 35 magenta, 04 yellow, and 01 white. Soak the one-stroke brush in a container filled with water, then blot it on a dry, dust-free cotton pad. We mix some of the white paint with yellow to create a pastel shade of yellow. After mixing the paints, we clean off our brush again and dry it off on a dry cotton pad.
Picking up paint on a brush is extremely important, which is why now is the moment to focus your attention. You can start your one-stroke journey by just practicing picking up paint with the brush as many times as you need, because remember, practice makes perfect.
With the longer tip of the brush, we pick up the color that is lighter and will be the outer part of the petal. With the shorter end, we pick up the darker color, which will fill the petal and create a shading effect. With our brush prepped with paint, we spread it out flat on the paper, using both sides. This creates a 3rd shade of color.
Only now are we ready to create decorations on the tips. Never start painting the decorations directly on the tips after only just having picked up paint on the brush. It simply won't work, the color transition will not be even, and the end result will definitely not please you.
Start the first layer of petals by placing the brush at a slight angle, moving to the right. Next, we turn the brush to the other side, leaving spaces between the petals, moving down. In this way, we paint the petals one after another. The movement should be slightly wavy to imitate the natural shape of flower petals.
We paint each petal in the same way on 2 layers, enhancing their pigmentation. As you can see, we do not cure acrylic paints under the lamp. There is simply no need for it as they dry quickly on themselves.
We wet our brush and wipe it off. We pick up the colors in the same way and proceed to painting on the tips. We fill in the spaces between the petals using the same movements as when painting larger petals. We paint 2 layers to deepen our shades.
We clean the brush after each painted layer. Painting with a clean brush is absolutely essential. The paints dry so quickly, so it's important to soak the brush in a container with water and wipe it on a dry cotton pad right after painting each individual element. Dried acrylic paint will be much harder to remove, and it will simply take away our precious time while decorating.
The final stage of our decoration requires applying a bright yellow color on the very tip of our brush. The shorter part of the brush is closer to its center. Very gently, we touch with just the very tip of our brush, scattering the middle lines outwards. Before we apply the top, we make sure the paint is dry. It should be matte. If so, we apply tip top and cure it in the lamp for 30 seconds. This is the first nail tip. Perfect for beginners. On to our intermediate level. For this purpose, we add a new drop of color on our paper, 22 green, and mix it with 35 magenta, creating a deep purple shade. We pick up some of this mixture on our brush and in the center of the tips paint a circle. We wait for it to dry. Once we see that the color has become dull, we know it has. Around the circle, we paint petals from the same color mix that we used for the first decoration. We apply the colors to the brush as previously discussed and paint petals around the purple circle.
Every time we mix colors, the shade may vary, but there's absolutely nothing to worry about because, let's be honest, in nature we hardly ever find two petals of identical color. This will only add to the realistic look of our decorations.
Inside the flower, we paint the smaller petals, placing them in the spaces between the larger ones. We add the acrylic paint 23 yellow-green. We mix the 22 green with 23 yellow-green. We pick them up on the brush in the correct order. Our darker color 22 on the short side of the brush and our lighter 23 on the longer side. Spread it out on the paper on both sides of the brush to create our third shade and move on to painting the leaves around our flower. The leaves are placed in the empty spaces between the larger petals on the outer side. Then we paint the phloem, running through the center of each leaf. With a clean brush, we pick up the deep purple shade that forms the center of the flower. In a scattering movement, we paint the rods inside. First with the dark purple, then we clean the brush, and using the pastel yellow, we paint the stamens to give it more depth.
It's worth giving acrylic paints a little mix with a wet brush from time to time. For the best results, when we use them, they should always be a little moist.
This is our second decoration in all its glory, dedicated to those of you who already feel comfortable painting and want to take it a step further. We move on to the third decoration. Using the same paint mixture from our previously painted petals, we'll continue to paint petals for our third decoration. We move back and forth, placing them a little wider apart on the tips, diversifying their outer edges. Of course, we cover each petal with 2 layers. We clean the brush, pick up some of the magenta shade and fill in the middle. We mix colors 22 and 23 and paint the leaves on the outside of the petals, exactly like we did in the previous decoration. With the 003 nail art brush, we paint the phloem. We color the smaller petals in from the inside, filling in the empty spaces between the large ones. We cover them with 2 layers. We painted the first ones a bit wider to fill out the tips and fit 3 layers of petals inside the flower. We paint the third, smallest layer, closest to the center. Finally, in a scattering motion, paint the stamens inside the flower. First with the dark purple color from our mixture. Then we clean the brush and paint the stamens with the pastel yellow shade to give them depth. We change to the 003 nail art brush and first paint more stamens with the lighter mixture. Then finish the decoration with the darker mixture. The final step is to fill the free space in with both mixtures with several decorative lines. This is the richest and most advanced one-stroke decoration of today's episode. These are all 3 decorations that our nail tech has prepared for you today. Which one of them will you try and do with us?
Well, that's all the decorations we have for you in today's episode. Let us know what you think by leaving your comments below. See you next time.